Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I'm talking about one thing in this particular video. You ever heard of Wirex? Well, I've heard of Wirex. I've never really looked into them before, but I just saw a video clip this afternoon of their CEO, Pavel Matveev, stating that XRP is a security token. He believes that XRP is a security. So I'm going to get into this. Again, it's probably not going to be a long video because this is the only thing I'm talking about. But before we get rolling, if you would please delicately tap that like button. If you're angry because he said it's a security, still don't smash it. Just delicately tap it. Keep the anger in check. I'm going to talk you through this. It's going to be okay. And if you would, please subscribe. I appreciate the support. All right, on to the content here. Here's a tweet from Ripple Press. Wirex co-founder and CEO Pavel Matveev. Here's a quote from him. XRP is a good example here, which is purely a security token. And this is a keynote speech at the Barcelona Trading Conference 2019. So I don't know exactly when this was recorded, but a lot of times in the world of crypto, there are conferences, people speak, and it may not be until a week or two or three later until video of the event is actually released. So this is the very first that I've come across this. I haven't even seen any news articles on this yet, but I will expect that this content will make it into crypto media at some point. So I came across this, and then I came across a tweet from King's XRP here, and I share the sentiment, so I thought I'd read this. This is in response to that sentiment of XRP being a security. And King's XRP wrote, "What were you trying to say at Matveev?" So that's the Wirex CEO. XRP is a security token trying to be a payment token. Owning XRP doesn't give me any ownership to Ripple the company, and yet I don't get any dividend. I lost respect to @Wirex app and its CEO. Shame. And I share the sentiment. So I thought I'd share that tweet with you too. And this whole thing, to me, is nonsensical, and it's part of the reason we're having trouble with stuff like this. Other than just blatant Bitcoin maxis just wanting to say that XRP is a security just for the purposes of FUD, which does happen quite a bit. Other than that, the big reason we have a problem is there is, from a regulatory perspective, there's tremendous lack of clarity. And the truth of the matter is, as I see it anyway, is that existing regulations don't sufficiently cover cryptocurrencies in terms of classifications, especially as far as whether or not something is or is not a security. And I remember a video clip. I actually pulled it up before recording this video, and I watched it again. There was a video clip from summer of last year, and the SEC chairman, Chair Clayton, he declared that Bitcoin was a currency. And in this particular interview that I recalled, which I again watched just before recording this, he was also asked about Ethereum, and he was asked about, quote, Ripple. And we know that the interview actually meant XRP, but he probably wasn't sufficiently educated to understand Ripple's a company. XRP is the digital asset on the distributed on the XRP ledger. Anyway. And so he said that, look, I'm not going to comment on additional cryptocurrencies, not going to go one by one. But he did go on to say that if a company is selling a cryptocurrency, selling a digital asset, and that's funding their company, and then there's an expectation of some sort of return or something to that effect, then it would be like an expectation of appreciation as a result of the company building out an ecosystem, this or that, whatever it is. I'm paraphrasing at this point, but he said if that's the expectation, that's how it's set up, then that's a security. And the interviewer asked him, so pretty much all ICOs are securities, and the SEC chairman, Chair Clayton, said yes, pretty much all ICOs are in fact securities. And so one of my critiques, and you know me, I am Mr. XRP Bull, but I'm also a critical thinker. So once I heard that, I started thinking, oh, okay, well, we know that Ripple did not create XRP. So if you look at it on the surface, it's like, well, of course, Ripple selling their stash of XRP, they should never be, that's not a security. And I don't think XRP is security, just to be clear. Of course not. There's a lot of reasons for that. But something that didn't look favorable was the fact that Ripple, although they're not the ones that created XRP, it was gifted to them by the people that created XRP in the service. So technically the ones that really created it, there's Jed McCaleb, Arthur Brito, and David Schwartz, right? And there are other people involved with the whole project too, but the point is, it was conceived, it was created, then Ripple was formed, and then it was gifted to them. So what popped into my head is, okay, so if that technically means that it's not a security because Ripple didn't technically make it, well then every ICO on the planet could get around being, claiming, around the concern of, is what I'm offering a security? Because if you're an ICO, you could just be like, oh, okay, well, to get around that, I'll do what Ripple did. I'll go ahead and make a coin, then I'll form a company, and then I'll gift it to myself, right? And so that is a fair critique. This is just critical thinking. Again, I am Mr. XRP Bull. I do not believe XRP is a security, but what I'm trying to get at is things are more complex than that. And I started thinking more in depth beyond that. So my only point in saying that is that's not a good argument for why XRP is not a security. There are good arguments, though. And the Howey test, I'm not even convinced, you guys may have heard of that. I'm not going to go in depth on that, but I'm not even convinced that properly applies to this type of thing, because with the nature of cryptocurrencies, the technology is just so different. It's so vastly different than anything else that they've had to regulate before, that you just can't shoehorn this technology into an existing legal framework. It just doesn't work. And what I've been thinking for over a year, ever since I heard that from Chair Clayton, I was always thinking, but the truth of the matter is, cryptocurrencies, consider an ICO, which again Chair Clayton admitted, like pretty much all those ICOs are securities. Okay, but here's the thing. Given the technology that's underlying the coins that were sold, if enough developers start building on top, then it becomes decentralized. And once sufficiently decentralized, it would no longer be a security, correct? Well, yeah, of course. Because if it's still a security of what? And this is a problem you didn't run into with classification of assets prior to this technology existing, because this dilemma did not exist. It quite literally did not exist. And so you have a situation where something could originally be created, it can be conceived, created, and sold, and it can be a security, but enough time passes and it becomes sufficiently decentralized to the point that it is no longer a cryptocurrency. And so my big critique is, but the legal framework that exists doesn't really seem to account for that. And there was a quote from Chair Clayton, and he said, "We won't do any violence to the language," or something to that effect. But he said, "We will not do violence to the existing legal framework." That's almost exactly what he said. And so I was like, I didn't really care for that because there was acknowledgement that the SEC chair, from the SEC chairman, Chair Clayton, that Ethereum probably used to be security, but it no longer is. And then sure enough, you go fast forward a bit, and let me pull up this piece. This is from CoinDesk, and it is from May 12th of 2019, and I'm only going to read one little quote from you in this whole thing. But this is titled, SEC Chair Clayton affirms agency stance Ether is no longer a security. So here's the quote. "I agree with Director Hinman's explanation of how a digital asset transaction may no longer represent an investment contract if, for example, purchasers would no longer reasonably expect a person or group to carry out the essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts under those circumstances. The digital asset may not represent an investment contract under the Howey framework." So verbally what he's stating there is, Ether's no longer, it would no longer reasonably be considered that. And so, of course, Ethereum, it's not a security. Okay, super duper, where's the legal framework that makes it clear what is what? That's still not existing. So it's an acknowledgement here that yes, things can change from centralized-ish to decentralized, or it can be a security and then no longer security, but there's no proper legal frameworks that you can follow that, and I don't particularly care for that. And so mind you, Ripple, they came in doing all this stuff in good faith, and even if there was a stronger case back in the day that XRP was a security, and not that I'm not even saying it was a security, ever, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying even if there was a stronger case just because Ripple gifted XRP to itself, essentially, if you want to make that point, even if, it's just that there wasn't proper regulation back then. I think it would be unfair to retroactively go back and try and penalize Ripple just because they were operating in good faith without proper regulatory clarity. And now it is sufficiently decentralized. Look at this. In terms of like the validators Ripple's running, it's negligible percent. They don't have any special powers over XRP itself. And there are all sorts of developers building on top of the XRP ledger, like R3, Omni, and Coil, and there's a bunch of them, right? And so there's no way that Ripple is offering a security by selling any portion of their XRP at that point, even if you want to make the case that and I'm not making the case, but even if you want to make the case that XRP used to be a security, even if you want to do that, it's not today. And I think it's terribly unfair if you were to go back and, especially when there wasn't clarity on this stuff, to go back and try and do harm to, in my mind, Ripple being the greatest cheerleader for XRP and one of the only adults in the world of crypto at large. Like, I don't see that. And so given all this is the case, given that if you own XRP, it doesn't give you a right or ownership to anything from any company that's building on top of it, including Ripple. If XRP, I want to ask this guy, the CEO of Wirex, if XRP is a security, it's a security of what? Of what? Of Ripple, of every single company that builds on top? If I start building on top of the XRP ledger, is that somehow there's a security contract there? Like, what is going on? This makes no damn sense whatsoever. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know where the stance is coming from. And so I didn't really know anything about Wirex, but it looks like they're a cryptocurrency exchange. I went to their website, and they got multi-coin wallets, stuff like that. And that's the extent of what I know. But I thought it was kind of rich that when I clicked on this, I found out that they were doing an ICO, but they're not calling it an ICO. This just happened within the last month. Check this out. The Wirex Token, WXT, pre-sale kicks off at 9 a.m. BST on Monday, the 24th of June. And so I was like, what? This is very rich. And so I had to look this up. And here's a piece from Cointelegraph.com on this, June 24th, 2019. And this I didn't notice, even though I check crypto news on a daily basis. It's not something that's stuck with me, probably because it wasn't XRP related. But I went down here. And so they've got their own token that they're selling. And check this out. Check out what the Cointelegraph article says. Funds raised through the IEO, which, by the way, they're calling it an IEO. It's, what was the word for it? It's something exchange offering, initial exchange offering. So they're calling it that instead of an ICO. This is an ICO. Guys, this is an ICO. This is garbage. They're trying to get around it, which seems really backhanded and sneaky. I don't like that. Anyway, check this out. So here's what the piece says about it. Funds raised through the IEO, which again is an ICO, this is stupid, will enable Wirex to accelerate its growth whilst bringing the company closer to its ultimate goal. To democratize access to fast, low-cost international remittances and empower retail and corporate customers to use their cryptocurrency in day-to-day life. Does that not sound like a security to you? How do you have the balls to say that XRP is a security when you're launching your own your damn security here via an ICO and calling it an IEO? Now, look, I will say this. I don't have a legal background on this stuff, so I'm willing to keep an open mind here. So I'm saying what I'm sharing with you here, this is my initial first impression. I don't technically have a firm opinion on this because the way that I conduct myself in life is even if if I'm reading it a certain way, I still want to get a professional opinion on the other side. I want to hear both sides before I form a firm opinion on anything, and that does apply here. So I'm not actually saying point blank this absolutely is a security, but does it not smell like one? And so I would love to hear the opposing view to what I just stated there. But there are no other developers building on top, right? I don't see, there's no word of that. There's nothing. This is something to be used specifically within their ecosystem, and you buy it. And then you hope that Wirex does well so that it what appreciates, right? So if not the case, I'm again, completely open-minded. But does it not sound like that? And so I went here, and it's just so funny that this is the first reason I ever had to ever go to this website with Wirex. I didn't even really know what Wirex is. I just had read their name here and there, had seen them in the Twitter feed. It's so funny to me that the CEO is like, "Yep, XRP is a security," and then I go to their website and they're doing a freaking ICO. And come on, that is something, right? So I just want to share that with you. That's where I'm at on that. XRP is not a security. It's stupid to call it that. And if you say that it is, then you're probably just a Bitcoin maximalist. There we go. That's my 2 cents. Okay. Tell me what you think below. But this is all silliness to me. It's all silliness to me. But I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!